Hi, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to Conversations with Calvin, We the Species. This is one of these special moments when we get our little group together, Climate Optimist group, and in parenthesis, everything not fine. This group was born a year and a half ago when I had met Alan Hesse. And Alan Hesse is the author of Captain Polo series. He educates children as to climate change, and he's been in Ecuador and studying the Amazon rainforest and doing his climate work for 30 years. And he and I met, and then he introduced me to a bunch of environmentalists and climate change people all over the world. So I wound up interviewing in Scotland and in Paris, et cetera, and then we decided to, Alan and I decided to form this little group of discourse. So we're here this morning on a Saturday morning, September 10th, and we're going to talk about some topics related to water. We're not even going to scratch the surface, but it's my belief, and it's Alan's belief, the more people talk about these issues and the more people learn about these issues, the better we'll all be. And I took it to the next level. When there's a billion groups like ours out there, each talking about some element of climate change, when there's a billion groups like that, then we've really moved forward in our approach to climate change and trying to make some positive change. So we're going to talk about water. Officially, the official title, which I'm actually looking for. Yeah, I'm looking for it. It's a panel on water, and it's an intelligent. It's called the Living Intelligent Water Panel, officially, and that title came from Gaetano. So I've said my piece. Let's just go around and do a little brief intro. Starting on top there with Mark and Christine.
Yeah, she just.
No, I wanted to get my notes.
Okay, and if you all would, for sure, talk about the rock musical you wrote.
We are the two founding members of a band, progressive rock band called Madmen and Dreamers, and we have from the start, from when the group was joined for the first time, we decided to actually write things that were important to the culture, to the people, rather than just like the mindless pop that you hear on the radio and the 97 or 98% love song, the way that the industry works. I'm not awake yet, so
Yeah, we don't do boy meets girl, boy loses girl, boy gets girl backstories. We do stories that are meaningful to us and to our society.
The we chose the format of like a rock musical based on when we were originally considering this at the start and how to execute it. I happened to surf into a Peter Gabriel concert on Showtime one night. This was quite a while ago, and it was the Secret World Tour. And there's a scene in there where he's, where he's singing the river, and he's poling himself across the stage like he's in a small boat, with a pole. And I'm watching this and I'm going, holy shit, that's the way to do it. And the whole thing, just clicked in my head, and then we started writing. The first one made it to off Broadway, limited run off Broadway at the Bleecker Street Theater. And while we were doing that, we were writing this one. And Water Incorporated is the story of the woman who owns the farms above the last clean freshwater aquifer, the man who owns the company that wants the water, and this terrible secret that they share. And the music is you could call the music progressive rock, but there's progressive, there's classic rock, there's blues, there's a few ballads, there's a swing tune.
Yeah, lots of different musical styles are represented in the piece.
Yeah, and what we're doing with it is, oh, here comes Mr. Hess or Hessa.
Hesse.
What we're doing with it is we are raising money for environmental groups, and we're trying to encourage people to get involved, because we've got some involvement from the government at last, a little bit anyway. If more of the regular folks like us get involved, we can produce a groundswell of pressure against the government. And what we're hoping to do is, as we go from place to place, we can leave a working cell behind us of people addressing local problems, and hopefully that will metastasize into actually getting some stuff done.
Great. Papa John.
Hi, I'm Papa John. I'm a musician. I've been a musician for many years. I started out in the beginning meeting this young lady that I knew, and she knew a lot of people, and she became my hostage for 26 years. She had the shorts and the look, and she was my backup singer. And she introduced me to Richie Haven's secretary, and unbeknownst to me, I was a young kid with a big afro and a little skinny little kid, and I think I was 20 years old. Yeah, 20 years old, and I got introduced to a group called Fresh Flavor. Richie Havens was a doo-wop singer back in the day when he lived on Gates Avenue in Brooklyn with a bunch of people, McRae gospel singers, and David McRae, who sings with the Drifters now. They were lifelong friends, and they had a young lady, Lucille Jackson, who wrote music, and she wrote for the Main Ingredient and a lot of other bands. They put a group together called Fresh Flavor, and it was an a cappella group. Lucille played keyboard, she did songwriting. They had Tony Johnson, David McRae, and Richie Havens, and they would we opened the shows for Richie for many years. I met them at Electric Lady Studios, which they invited me down in the Village, and it's all history. Before we know it, Richie and his wife Nancy were running the Cafe Wah. We became the house band for the Cafe Wah, and all the celebrities would come down there. We do this for several months before we went on tour to England, and I came back with a British accent, believe it or not.
That's great. That's great.
So
thank you.
But during that time, I've been a sales manager, consumer electronics. I drove the cab for 6 years in Manhattan. Struggling musicians, after a while, you're not making money. I'm there. So so I worked, and I made money, and next thing you know, I got older, but I kept on playing music. I drove a cab for 6 years. I slept for 4 hours a day. I hit all the open mics in Manhattan. And as time went by, the girl I actually married was Perry Farrell's sister. Perry's from Jane's Addiction. So he made it big. And he came to ask me a couple of times what to do in his career, but he made it big. And soon after, I got involved with people in New Jersey. I wanted to join the band, and I got to New Jersey later in life. And I did the whole geographics around the country. And I'm pretty well entrenched in the Asbury Red Bank music scene now, and we just cut.
That's where you and I met. And
we went through
years. Okay, moving on to Samantha.
Hello, I'm Samantha. Thank you so much for having me. I met Calvin through LinkedIn, through our Rutgers connection. I graduated in the COVID class of 2020 from Rutgers in New Brunswick in environmental science. And I am a 4-year professional in remediation. I'm currently employed with environmental consultant Applied Earth Solutions.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been with them for 2 years. My job is to investigate and remediate environmental sites where they're contaminating the environment and this kind of contamination causes cancer. So it's really important that we comply with regulations set by the state and by the federal government to protect human health and the environment.
Very good.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Samantha. Ray Dove.
Thank you.
Hello. I just woke up. It's like 7 a.m. here. I'm in Southern California.
Ouch.
Yeah, so like it rained all night because we had our first storm in like months. Well, this summer, which is actually over, and it rained all night. And I'm so not used to the rain that I kept waking up like every 2 hours because it was raining outside.
Was there any flooding?
No. They
Oh, thank
thought,
God.
well, there might have been up in the mountains. It's like early. I haven't looked at the news yet, but yeah, we were supposed to get like an inch or two where I am near Los Angeles. And I think we got 1/8 of an inch. It was just like this gentle rain, no
Good.
downpour. Well, I don't know if that's good, but I wish we would have gotten more. Anyway, I am a former teacher of art and computer technology. I taught for many years and then was injured and was unable to, well, messed up my wrist. I'm also a muralist, an artist, and that's what ultimately wrecked my wrist. So I went into background acting and acting because that was the only way I could get hired anywhere when you're injured. Now I am an author. I write about the non-ordinary and spirituality. And I guess I'm a bit of a Renaissance person. You know, when I was like 11, I started with my dad, the first AYSO girls soccer team way back then, before girls were even allowed to play on sports. Let's see, I guess that's about it for now. Got to wake up a little more.
Okay.
It's nice to meet you all.
More
interviewed-
coffee.
Yeah, I
I
interviewed
got
Ray
it
2
right
days
here.
ago. And actually Claudine is editing it. Claudine is Carla's daughter, and that'll be up. And she's quite unusual and fascinating and different and interesting. And we shared several commonalities, but I'll leave it at that. Moving on to Carla Davis-Smith.
Hi, everyone. So as Calvin said, I'm the daughter of Claudine, and I'm happy to be an empty nester. So with that being said, I find myself going in different directions. I'm passionate about the youth. I work in my local high school as an administrative assistant. And during the pandemic, I had a 10-month program where I kept connected with the kids. Even though it was not in person, we were able to do Zoom events on certain topics that affected them, like depression, suicide, being in a lockdown, and just touching base with them and making sure that they were okay, instead of not, acknowledging that this thing is affecting them. So with that being said, I was interviewed by Calvin. I found it to be very great to put that message out there, which it ended up segueing into the climate optimists. Because I think if you are concerned about the future, which is the youth, you will connect the future of our environment with as an entity. So that's it. And I am happy to be a part of this group, although I've not been on in almost 6 months, right, Calvin?
It's fine.
Things happen.
It's fine.
So tonight we decide to connect.
We're very informal.
Yep.
Next up, Alan in Ecuador. Can you hear us, Alan?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Hi, Calvin, everybody. Sorry, I had my video off. I'm having my breakfast, which is why I had my video off and the sound off.
Oh, that's
But
okay.
very happy to be here. Hi, everybody. Lovely to meet you all. I'm in Ecuador.
Alan is the author of this. I showed this to everybody, Captain Polo. So you
Yeah, thank you for that, Calvin. Yeah, I'm a conservation biologist from Latin America, and I've been interviewed a couple of times by Calvin, and it's always been a great experience. And we we created this climate optimist group to have these kind of panels and spread the word. You know, much as Claudine said, it's about addressing the anxiety in young people, giving them a sense of agency through education and through empowerment. And that's what I'm all about. I do graphic novels for middle grade kids about climate change, and also school-based projects for climate education here in Ecuador that doesn't exist. So I'm kind of pioneering that here. I'm hoping to get some good partnerships and alliances and spread it to the region, the whole Latin American region, and trying to partner up with as many people as possible. So happy to meet you all, and yeah, that's me for now. Thank you. I'll go back to my breakfast now, if you don't mind.
Go ahead. Unmaterialized. It's kind of like that.
Okay, thanks.
Bewitched. She's there and she's not there. Next up, Grace.
Yeah, there's Grace.
Say hello, Grace. As soon as she.
Sorry, I had to unmute. So I
And by
just
the way,
got out of my.
Grace
Yeah, go
wrote Sanctuary, and I met Grace at Rutgers. She was a librarian researcher at Rutgers University, and we've been friends, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 years. But she wrote this, and take it away, Grace. Intro.
Well, I'm actually coming to you guys from the beautiful Atlanta Botanical Garden. I just finished a Tai Chi class. Power of water. It's raining today, so there's not a crowd. So I was able to join the panel as soon as I got out of my class because there's no one around me. So there's a little bit of sprinkling going on, but my interest in water is really primarily as a concerned layperson. I grew up in Louisiana. And I live in Atlanta now. And of course, I spent 20 years in New Jersey. So I've certainly seen the power of water in terms of what hurricanes can do. I've been through Katrina. I've been through Irma. I've been through Sandy. I've been through many hurricanes. So, you know, my interest in water, I think, ranges from the fact that I don't trust the water in my tap to the fact that we're seeing now the results of a severely compromised Gulf Stream. And I can't emphasize the Gulf Stream plays such a major role in controlling weather patterns and making them predictable. And I'm sure everybody, you know, just on a human personal level, you've learned not to trust your weather app. You know, it says raining and then it doesn't rain. It says it's not going to rain and then it rains. We're increasingly losing our ability to predict the weather because we don't really understand the full dimensions of the damage to the Gulf Stream yet. But we're seeing it in the horrific droughts and in the flooding. And, you know, we can't say enough about the horrendous flooding in Pakistan. 40% of the country is flooded. That's insane. And, you know, I think it would help everybody to kind of picture that in the US. Picture, we have 50 states, picture 20 states flooded, and picture how we would respond to that, how FEMA could be pulled together to respond to that. It's not doable, it's not possible. We're going to be seeing horrific weather patterns, and we still don't really have a grip on what the changes are to the Gulf Stream. And we know that those aren't the final changes. So water is behind everything. We need it to live, but we also need it to behave itself so we can survive. And we're increasingly not having water to live. And Mississippi is the state next to the one I grew up in, Louisiana. I've been to Jackson many times. It's a big city. It really is a big city. And that whole city is without drinkable water. So we need it to drink, but we also need it to leave us alone so that we, you know, can live in our homes and live our lives. And I'm really looking forward to learning from other people on this panel, you know, what options are left for us. So that's what I would say.
Okay, thank you, Grace. Listening to you and the Pakistan thing, I have a great thing, but we'll bring that up later. Next up, I want to bring on Samantha Waldron. one of our keynote speakers here, to talk about PFAs and drinking water and remediation, et cetera, et cetera. So Samantha, it's all yours.
Thank you, Calvin. Oh my gosh, I am so excited to bond with you all today on this call about how each of us here has a commonality in environmental issues. So I'll start by segueing off of a little bit of what Grace was talking about with the changes, the radical changes in our meteorology due to the steady changes in climate over time. Many people will say to you, climate change, well, the climate's changed before, why does that matter now? The reason why it matters now is because climate change has been accelerated due to the anthropogenic effects of our planet. Anthropogenic meaning human caused. So our planet maintains homeostasis. Homeostasis is constant state. So just like our bodies, with regulating our temperature by sweating or by shivering, our planet reacts to changes in the same way. So the rapid changes in our weather, the rapid changes in our climate over time, these are caused by humans making changes to the planet in ways that the planet needs to respond by having extreme weather events. So what are we doing, humans? What are humans doing to our planet that are causing these changes? Contamination is where I'm going right for, because that's what my work is in. We're getting sea level rise, we're getting radical changes in hurricanes, we're getting changes in temperature. Even our ecology is changing, like Calvin's mentioned in our email about fisheries not having the same amount of fishes as before. Pakistan is flooding. America is flooding. We're having all sorts of problems all over the world, and this directly affects each and every one of us. So PFAS is perfluoral or polyfluoroalkyl substances. These are complicated chemical structures containing fluorine, and PFAS has over 9,000 different types. So when we talk about PFAS, we're talking about a general term for many different chemicals that are harmful to humans and to the environment. Where does PFAS come from? So PFAS is in almost everything, unfortunately. Your fast food wrappers to keep your sandwich from getting the paper wet and getting all your other stuff wet. Resistant clothing, like water resistant clothing, firefighting foam, even like stain resistant carpet in your house. PFAS is unfortunately everywhere, and the governments, such as like the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, we're all doing more research and coming to find that there's no safe level. The regulatory standards are really small. So we're finding that PFAS is everywhere and there's no safe level. So like, even if you have a little bit in your groundwater, in your soil, or, anything like that, it's unfortunately something that needs to be addressed immediately because it's an emerging contaminant of concern. So it's a contaminant in our environment that is worrying us that we need to take care of it. So long story short, water is what connects all of us. Water is underneath the ground. It's where we get our drinking water. Those big water towers you see, when you're driving on the highway, those are very large wells that are deep in the ground that extract water from our aquifer. So like the underground river that goes beneath us, that also connects to our water bodies like rivers, lakes, the ocean. All of this is connected together. When we take water and don't replenish it or give it back, or when we don't take care of it, that's when we start dealing with environmental struggles or, lack of availability of water. So not only are we contaminating it, but we're also taking water to use it for, drinking, for irrigation, like watering our farms, and even using it for entertainment, like going to the water park. Everything's connected in every way, spiritually and environmentally. I could rant for hours, but feel free to ask questions. Feel free to share your 2 cents. This is casual. Calvin's so cool. I love talking to him. I met Claudine, Carla's daughter. She's fantastic. She's like electrifying. And she inspires me too. So thank you for having me on this talk. I could rant. Please
Okay.
ask questions.
So I'm going to throw out, John, Papa John, do you have a question?
Yeah, locally in the lately in the news, you had the Lower East Side where they thought there was arsenic in the water.
Yes.
And it was the lab that they tried. I guess that's the excuse today, but also Detroit, the pipes underneath that are the old lead pipes. I guess they're replacing them, but they're still around. And so you have Detroit, you have Lower East Side in New York, and you can't drink the water because or even take a bath in it. I'm in Long Branch. I don't trust my water either. And so
Ooh, I could talk about that if you want. Not trusting our water. This is a beautiful topic. And Papa John, you already touched base on a lot of that. Aging infrastructure, the pipes underground. Arsenic is even a thing with rice paddies, and how the rice is sucking up the arsenic out of the water and then it's in our food. This is with everything. Can't drink it, can't bathe in it because there are ingestion and dermal types of exposure to these chemicals that can cause adverse health effects. So that's why it's so important that we're aware of these things so that we can think about them when we're voting, when we're talking with our friends, when we're talking with our family members at the holidays. These are all ways that we can empower ourselves to share the education, increase awareness, and turn all of these things into action. So I could rant about that with how each of us has the power of our minds and of our knowledge and of how much we love our planet, how we can use these things to take care of it.
Down here in North Carolina, coal ash is a huge thing in the Piedmont, which is where we live, just a little bit north of Charlotte. I've gone to a number of meetings at schools because down here, I mean, and this is the definition of insanity. For a long time, they were selling the coal ash as fill, so people could build houses on top of it, and then it starts leaching. And they wonder why they got thyroid cancers. The Duke, who's the biggest offender, probably in the U.S. In this area, had met with a bunch of people at Cheryl's Ford, which is about 20 miles north of here, and they didn't want to talk to anyone. They just wanted to put up some marketing tchotchkes and let everybody walk around and read them. That lasted about 5 minutes. And the people in the auditorium just lost it, and they started shouting. It was a really interesting and sad thing to watch. There's a big coal ash deposit here up there in Cheryl's Ford, and it's in an unlined pit. So there's nothing preventing that the heavy elements, what's it, thorium is one of the radioactive elements from getting into the groundwater supply. And while they were discussing that with Duke, Duke was saying, well, if we move it, it's going to drag it through your communities. It's going to become airborne. It's going to become even worse, And then somebody punched in with, and this amazed me, that apparently this guy had done the math. He said it'll take 670,000 rail cars to move it in 30 years.
Wow. It
was, and he stopped the room. Samantha, you're on mute. He stopped the room. Everybody just kind of stood there with their mouths open.
Wow.
670,000
railway cars.
Yeah. 670,000. You see, you, Mark, are touching on a very relevant topic, especially for all over America. Historic fill is what we call it when you have contaminated materials that you're using to build. Yep, exactly. historic fill is like everywhere. So basically, if you look at old maps over time, you'll notice that there used to be swampland or waterways that were covered with historic fill, and then we built on top of it. And that's it. Yes, it spreads all over and everyone is affected, and we eventually have to dig it out. You know, I mean, we have soil disposal regulations. This is expensive. 670,000. Oh
And
my
where
God.
do you put, the thing is, where do
Who
you put
wants it? No one.
The only thing we can do about it is send it to specific landfills, by testing that historic fill when we dig it out, when we excavate it, and carry it over. The soil disposal facilities have to evaluate the contamination that's in it, and they can only take certain amounts in certain places. And you know, sometimes you have to treat the soil before you break. There's so much to it. There's a lot of paperwork that has to be done, and the awareness is the biggest part. And with how expensive it is, there, you know, different people have to be responsible for taking care of that. I mean, this has been going on for years and years and years.
Generations.
And sometimes innocent property owners have to take care of it. Yeah. Sorry, what were you saying, Mark?
No, generations. Now, you know,
Yes,
especially down here.
But if we keep creating more and more of it, then we're gonna have less and less places to put it.
Now, I have a question. If they're dropping this stuff on wetlands, okay, is there anything?
Ooh, yeah.
Well, that's what you just said. You just said they're dropping this stuff on wetlands. Being is that is the planet's largest water filtration mechanism. You know, I was a bio major and a psych minor in college, so the science of climate change is not lost on me. But you've got all these microorganisms and all this silt in the substrate that filters out everything that is supposed to be a problem. How much of the chemicals from these ash deposits actually get through that? I mean, have you in your research dug down far enough to see if there's a lower limit, you know, of some of these elements, the heavy elements that go into it?
That's a great question, Mark. And thank you so much for sharing your information and your knowledge with us today, because you're touching on so many, all of you are touching on such important topics. Wetlands, the water filter of Earth. Literally, wetlands are sensitive receptors, and they are especially sensitive to contamination and have special regulations, special types of certifications you can get to treat, special classes you can take to learn more about it. I mean, this is a deep topic. We're going down a rabbit hole here.
Yeah.
So your question, how deep does it go? And how deep can this be affected?
Yeah.
Okay. So our soil has different levels, as you already know. Microorganisms live in the soil. So how deep does it go? It goes really deep. And the reason why it goes really deep, and I don't even have a number because it varies by region. Nothing is the same from time to time or place to place.
Yeah.
I'm just going to talk about New Jersey because that's where I live, that's where I work. I'm on track to be a licensed site remediation professional in New Jersey specifically. New Jersey's special. We're like the super fun site of the country. We have special problems here.
I was born in Jersey City.
So you've shifted from the garden state to the Superfund state.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it was like
so
that.
Sad, but it's true.
Yeah, it was like that when I was a kid. There was you know where Pompton Lakes is, right? I grew up in Pompton Lakes.
Pompton Lakes. Oh, okay.
I grew up in Pompton Lakes, and there was the DuPont ammunition factory in Pompton Lakes, and they contaminated all of the soil in an area that they called DuPont Village. And I had a number of friends, you know, from high school who lived there and who died very quickly after high school because of the cancer that they got from all the heavy elements. They were testing munitions in a pond. you know,
Yeah.
and none of it, you know, none of it was remediated, you know, until they sued. Okay, and then what they did was this encapsulates the problem perfectly. What they did was they put all the dirt that they removed onto rail cars, and they tried to get rid of it, and they were unsuccessful. So now it sits on a siding. I believe it's in Sussex, New Jersey, and nobody wants it. This thing is like toxic plague. This thing, you know.
Yep. Railroads are a whole specific animal because
Yeah.
they're so regulated, and it's very, very serious with getting access.
Yeah.
Like governmental access, like, are we allowed to enter? Are we allowed to dig? You know, we've got active rail lines everywhere. Like that's a constant problem. I mean, with how deep the contamination goes. So do you know the water table? So if you take a shovel, right, and you start digging underground, if you get deep enough, you'll eventually hit some water. The soil will get wet, you'll see some water flowing in, you might get a hole of water, you know, some water in there. That water table, the level of water rises and falls with seasons, you know, and this also is part of why when we take water and don't give it back, that's why, you know, we can get sinkholes, we can get, you know, this is a problem in Florida, especially where there's sinkage occurring because we're taking so much water out of the aquifer.
Right.
So naturally the water rises and falls at, you know, at certain levels, and the water sucks up some of that contamination, and the contamination can be dense or light, and it can sink to certain levels underground in a plume. So it's like a cloud.
Yeah. Okay.
And there's soil and water, and it's all soaked up like a sponge, and it's just mixing all together underground. There are actually, there's bedrock, as you know, you know, which is like a rock, but underground. There are fractures and holes underground, and that's where some of the contamination sucks into, unfortunately.
So it ends up in the aquifer.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's the water table aquifer, which is like the upper level, and then there's like the deep aquifer, which is the lower level.
Yeah.
So once the water table rises and falls, takes some of that contamination, it sinks, and it can get into the deep water, which is our drinking water and connected everywhere else, unfortunately. But that's why you have remediation professionals like me who are trying to help.
Yeah.
It's so expensive. We're working on limited time and resources. We're meeting deadlines for the government. There are so many different legal, money, environmental factors. It's such a complex situation I could rant about for hours. Thank you, Mark and Christine, for your input and ideas. Like, literally, you're just walking me right through my job. Like, I don't even have to think here.
Well,
Anyone
down
else
here.
have a question?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Grace.
Yeah. So Samantha, you know, I mean, I feel between a rock and a hard place, and I'm sure everybody else does too. They tell you hydrate, drink a lot of water. I don't trust any water. You're a water professional. What do you drink? What do you advise?
That's a great question. That's a great question. So, all right. So what can we do? What can we do as individuals? You don't have to be an environmental professional to fix your problem, okay? The first thing I would say is, number one, get your activated carbon filter, Brita. That's the first thing. Your refrigerator has a carbon filter. Check the label. Make sure you're replacing it with the right type of filter every couple of months. If you live in a region that is particularly contaminated, such as like Essex County, Passaic County. I think Passaic County is like the worst, you know, where there's the most environmental sites of concern. I mean, even just driving around, you can see some places that you know about. I mean, factories, you know, the railroad. I mean, not every railroad is contaminated, but many are because of the historic fill issue. But I mean, even in Bergen County over by the Hudson River, like I wouldn't swim in the Hudson River, you know what I mean?
Is it true that Atlantic City has the best water?
Hmm?
Is it true that Atlantic City has the best water?
I'm not sure. That's a good question. I think it all depends on where you live, what kind of water supplier you have, your water purveyor. I've only been in this for 4 years, so I don't know everything. I do want to like preface with that. But honestly, you could just look it up. I mean, you could go on your water purveyor's website. So like many people have Suez. You know, many people have, you know, it differs by municipality in New Jersey because New Jersey is special. You can look up by your zip code and look at your water report. So you're gonna have to sit and read it a little bit.
Yeah.
My general advice would be to look for bolds and highlights. Take your time, use Google things you don't know, because that's what we do. I mean, everybody Googles things that they don't know. Learning, education, talk about it, raise awareness, turn that awareness into action. So yes, get your Brita filter, read your water report, and talk to your personal government, like your local government, and see who is really caring as much as we do about these issues, because it all comes to government. It all comes to who we're voting for, who we're learning from. You know, talk to the kids who are in school, raise their awareness, see what we can do as a community to really get some action.
Okay, quick questions. Some of the you know, water you know, filter pitchers do claim that they mitigate PFAS. Is that believable?
Okay, that's a really good question. I'm just gonna say maybe. I don't want to give you a concrete answer because I don't want to give incorrect information. So I'll say it like this. We still don't know everything in the science community. So let me just tell you this. This is the best that we can do right now. So let's say yes, but like,
they're not that much more expensive, so it sounds like it's worth taking a chance, but don't trust it totally, but it's worth taking a chance.
correct.
I got it.
Do everything you can. So let's say it like this. Try it, okay? Keep replacing your carbon filters, and let's do our best to do everything we can to make sure that we're conserving and using our water correctly, and to also filter that water before we use it. Some things you can't boil out of your water, unfortunately, so you don't have to worry about trying to boil your water before you drink it, unless someone tells you that there's a boiling water advisory. And
So one
typically you'll
last
get a
follow-up question for the average consumer. So there's a big push to start, have people add rain barrels and start using rain barrels. I guess that's really a water conservation issue, but that water is probably every bit as good as the water out of your hose for like watering your garden and the like, right? Or is that a good investment, a water barrel?
It depends on
I
the
see
roof.
Mark. Yeah, I agree with Mark. So I'll tell you why, and Mark can help me here too. Collecting water instead of letting it filtrate into the ground, I wouldn't do that. Number two, acid rain, because of the air contamination, right? So think about how the life cycle of water, the water cycle. Water, you know, evaporates into the atmosphere and collects into clouds. How do clouds form? Well, the water clings to the particulate matter in the sky, it clings together, and then it rains. The water absorbs some of the airborne contamination, and that's how you get acid rain. You get like sulfur, you get all sorts of junk in there. I could drop scientific terms, but I'll just keep it dilute. Mark. Yeah.
There's also the subject of what your roof is made out of. If you have a roof that's made out of asphalt shingles, it's going to bring
whatever chemicals.
loose
Surface
hydrocarbons
runoff.
out, and it'll
Yeah.
put them in the water, and they're really, really bad for you. What you have to do in a situation like that is see if you can set up like a steel roof. Down here in the Carolinas, they're everywhere. You know, and we're thinking about replacing ours so that we can actually put solar panels on the house. But that's a big one, is the composition of the roof. You have to know what it is.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Mark. And thank you, Grace, for your excellent questions.
I had a question.
Yeah, Papa John.
Okay. Those dumps that we see, I think they just closed the one in Staten Island, the landfills. Aren't they still contaminated?
Methane.
I mean, all these landfills they're doing in Jersey and
Yeah.
and
So you're
Staten
asking like when they close a landfill, is it still contaminated?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't
So
it take
what they're
years
doing
and
is they're
years?
capping it.
How do
Yeah.
you tap something like that? And
Yeah, it's a great question. I
we
love it.
talked about, going down further into the water table and all that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
They're capping
So
them?
yeah, capping. We call it capping. So essentially what that means is you're putting a special cover on it. So
Ah, okay.
sometimes there's different types of caps. We use
Yeah.
caps all the time actually. And caps are good. Okay. Caps are good. So I'm gonna try and make this like concise and easy to understand. So sometimes we make plants, like we have special plants that help
Yeah.
suck up some of that bad stuff. So they're very hardy, very resilient native plants. So you could put this in your garden.
Yeah.
And it can help. Yes. If you have a park nearby, or if you have if you have private land, or if you have like a community land, definitely plant some native plants, because that's one of the ways that we naturally remediate the land. So the cap is meant to stop any more stuff from being put on that land, and then they'll usually have like another landfill that they take it to. So like that's like a form of like monitored natural attenuation, where over time, eventually the soil remediates itself because of the living. See, this is why like we still have a lot of work to do. Sometimes there's not enough money or not enough, like if a remediation consultant does everything they possibly can to help the land, they'll just put a cap on it, they'll do some paperwork, and the government will monitor it. So sometimes we'll be sampling the water nearby, like if we have wells, like monitoring wells, which are wells like deep pipes underground, where we collect water from to monitor the situation. So we're monitoring it, we're looking at it. So, that's generally, I'm not like super familiar with landfills. I've done some landfill work in my job. I do have lots more to learn, and I look forward to learning more. So if anyone has more knowledge they can share, feel free to bounce off with it.
Do those caps remediate the methane discharge from landfills?
That's a great question.
I see funnels
Methane-
coming out. They usually have funnels coming out. They have a
They're drawn off gas.
yeah. I remember that. Yeah.
There are special vapor intrusion systems that can be put into place. I don't personally work with a lot of methane. I work with volatile organic compounds such as like gasoline, oil, fuel, different types of weird chemicals like for printing, like ink. So methane's a little bit out of my wheelhouse, but I could definitely look more into it, and we could talk about it next time as well.
I have two things.
Okay.
Oh, Calvin.
Just two things to throw out. Firstly, in response to Grace, do you trust your water? So I didn't start trusting my water here. I never did. And so 5 years ago, we had an elaborate filtration system put in. So right next to our sink, somewhere up in Pompton Plains is the company, actually, Mark.
Yeah.
Christine, up there, there's a company, Pure Water, and they come in once a year. Right next to my kitchen sink faucet is this separate faucet. There's a big tank filled with tons of filters, and once a year they come and put in a new filter, and I treat it like it's the new oil, as Mark said. Water's the new oil. So that's number one, a comment that I've never trusted. I've never trusted water like that. And the other thing I wanted to mention, it's an attitude, and Samantha touched on it, about local municipalities. So here's an attitude I want to bring up. I'm on a local environmental commission. And when a couple of months ago, and they do mostly approvals of new buildings that want to go up, and we make sure that all the environmental codes are taken care of. So I was appointed to that. I actually had I'm looking at the oath, the same oath of office I had to take that the president takes to be on this commission. But anyway, point being, when this article came out, and I think I sent it to all of you.
Yes.
I did. EPA warns against toxic forever chemicals, the PFAs and stuff. I was rather depressed about that. So at a meeting, and I don't mention names, at a meeting I brought this up, and I said, we're an environmental commission. Can't we ask our water company what they're doing and how's our water, and what about PFAs? And here's how that was met. One person yelled and screamed at me that what you're proposing is going to cost tons of money to get lawyers and do all this stuff.
I have the perfect rebuttal to it, but please continue.
So
Yeah.
I was really angry, and the chairman of the Environmental Commission said, "Oh, we'll take a P.S." I said at the end of my little discourse, I said, all I want to do is ask a question. I want to ask a question with the power of our title, an Environmental Commission behind us. It doesn't involve lawyers. It's just a matter of knowledge. And it was rejected, and it was skirted over. And it's funny. I said to my wife, I said, you know what? I'm just going to resign. That's not the way to do things. So I accepted it because that's people. But it was an attitude.
Yeah.
Somebody's taking money.
Yeah.
Yep. All right.
I want to grab Alan for a moment. And Alan, you got serious water problems in Ecuador. Can you just kind of talk about that for a minute?
Well, actually, it's usually the problems in Ecuador are it's linked. It's very much linked to the El Nino phenomenon in the ocean. Of course, it affects the rest of the planet, but here it's right on the Eastern Pacific. Affects the cloud formation over the Andes, and that affects all kinds of things, including devastating flooding and landslides in a country which has very little infrastructure to withstand these events. So there's considerable loss of property and loss of life as well when that happens, and it's pretty serious because of because of the terrain, right? The terrain is the problem here, and also the land use practices are not sustainable. Forest is cut down, as we all know, on steep slopes. That is just a recipe for all kinds of disasters. But there's also the droughts. Right now, it's been raining all year, but right now, over the past 10 days, I'm in Quito, the capital of Ecuador, which is up in the Andes. And it's really dry right now, and certain neighborhoods where I live are on water rationing. And it's funny, as it happens, I've been picked out of a hat in my condominium to be the administrator, which is a duty that everyone has to go through. A dreaded responsibility, lasts the whole year, and they picked my name out of a hat. So now I'm getting to grips with all the reality of what it is to respond when there's nothing coming out of the tap, and
Exactly.
But it is, but I mean, water shortage is something that everyone goes through periodically, but of course certain countries are much more prone to this. The arid areas, there's so many parts of Africa, and of course southeast, southern Asia. I read somewhere that in parts of central India, they have to drill down something like 6 kilometers to get the water out of out of the
Same thing with Nepal too. They're having issues too.
And Mexico.
There you go.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I can't really say much about water more than the next guy. You know, that's not really my area of expertise, but just as an observer and a consumer.
Your input is still extremely valuable. Like I could rant, honestly, and I want to include Ray and Carla in this part as well, because this I want to segue into like the next phase, like kind of like the closing phase of what I want to talk about today. And you know, at least like not just what I want to talk about, but I feel like this is what you want to hear too. Kind of like what Calvin was saying, kind of like what you're saying. Attitude, responsibility, duty, accountability. These are all words that are common theme to what we could do to help save the planet. Personally, I think we still have time. Okay, I know that it feels like it's the end of our days. And I know we're getting a lot of doom speak, you know, doomsday speak. That is just meant to instill a little bit of urgency in us. Okay, if we act right now with our children, with art, with history, with intersectionality of every single issue, especially environmental justice for marginalized global majority groups.
Yeah.
Right now is the time to act, because if we don't act right now, then it'll be too late. Okay. So what can we do? Calvin, it's so easy to lose a little bit of inspiration when people push back. Okay, people push back because they don't know what to do, because they don't have the resources, because they feel lost, because they don't have the knowledge or the resources to tackle this problem. However, just me personally, I would keep pushing. Now, how we push and the method of which we push is everything. Yeah. I'm still learning about this. I'm not as emotionally intelligent as I wish I were. You know, this takes a lot of maturity, experience. It takes some adult handling. But I would say with every price tag that you stumble across when it comes to the environment, compare that to how valuable it is for us to have clean water to drink. It's invaluable. There's no price tag for healthy people, healthy children, healthy animals, healthy plants, healthy crops for us to eat. You know, when you walk into the grocery store, just simply behold how much is in your grocery store and how many people that grocery store feeds. Oh, yeah. And how water affects every single person walking in and out of your grocery store, in your community, in your home, everywhere. Your family, yourself, and everyone around you, your community. So next time someone talks to you about how much it costs, tell them it'll be worth it, because our health and environment are invaluable, because this is supposed to sustain our children for generations to come. And if we don't act now, then we will run out of time. But now is the time. Ray and Carla and Papa John, I mean, everybody here, we all have a special responsibility to educate. You people specifically are in the perfect stage, the perfect position to help us through art, through music, through passionate discussions, through writing books, just like Alan and Grace, through podcasts like Calvin, and through pure knowledge and enthusiasm like Mark and Christine. Like all of us here have a special act that we can play. No one of us is more important than the other. Just because this is my job doesn't mean that you guys aren't just as important and essential to solving this problem. I have goosebumps talking about this right now. You guys have the power. So Carla and Ray and Papa John, and you guys make music too, Christine and Mark, you guys have a band, like, and you're talking about the most important issues. I mean, I see on TikTok and YouTube all the time of young people, old people, everybody in between, doing fun challenges, fun songs, you know, that have a great tune, but talk about very severe problems. What do you think we can do to, you know, get our community engaged and riled up about the environment and protecting ourselves? I haven't heard from Carla or Ray in a while, but Papa John,
yeah, let him speak. Ray.
What? Oh, go ahead, Papa John.
No, you go ahead. I've spoken already. We haven't heard from you.
Oh, okay, I'm going.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Well, as my background as a teacher and also a strong background in technical writing and experience in creating YouTube style documentaries, I edit, I write them, and I put them out there, not in the subject of the environment, but I really love doing the films and editing them. As a teacher, because you're always a teacher, like I'm a parent as well, so you're always a teacher, always. So creating more education at the kids level, you know, the next generation to come, of course. And creating more documentaries and putting them out there in a fun, creative way, because when kids especially, and even adults, start seeing a documentary that's too serious, especially with kids with a shorter attention span and some adults with a short attention span. If it's the film's not grabbing them with entertainment, because now in the past, a film was shown in school and it was kids are falling asleep, throwing erasers at each other. But now documentary films, everything has to be entertaining, because kids are so used to instant gratification from all of the computer games, you know, that they're playing. That's how they're raised.
Yeah.
So everything has to be now for this generation, especially I've seen it has to be entertaining, has to be fun, adding humor. So I can see documentary films created for kids and adults that are fun. And as a writer too.
All right, here's latest
That
book.
doesn't have to do with the, well, it does
No,
kind of have
it
to
does,
do with the
it does.
environment. Yeah.
Transported to Telos, which I
Yeah.
read in a couple of hours and took notes on it. Rather haunting. But anyway.
Yeah, so I guess I have been writing, and in fact, before the Transported to Telos, which does mention environmental concerns in it, I created a children's coloring book, and in it I include, it's called Galactic Friends Coloring Book, and it's on Amazon. But when I wrote it, I included coloring pages that highlighted the environment, so that a kid could, who's sitting in the middle of a city, can look at a page and go, wow, there's jungles and animals and beauty. So I did, and I kind of would like to create more of those fun educational coloring books and activity books.
I'm
And
freaking out
always-
over here. I love it. Ah, it's fun.
Maybe we should work together on something, eh? Because I don't,
You're kicking it. Yeah.
I don't have the mathematical mind. I mean, yeah, I can do math. I don't have the scientific mind, in that I just have this huge curiosity about it.
That's
So-
what's so valuable, though. You know how to make it digestible for
Yeah,
minds
yeah,
of
I can
all
take the
kinds of minds.
complicated. Yeah, that's my specialty, as making technical manuals, even for adults. I take the complex, and my job is to write a very simple step-by-step manuals, which
This
is
is it.
applied. Yeah, yes, that's all I can think of. But I do have one question for you, Samantha, is do you feel that the city regulations for water, tap water, are adequate? Are the amounts per part of, say, lead, chlorine, fluoride in the water, are they set too high? Is this a political thing? And, you know, for an example, I had a relative who lived in Los Angeles, and they were drinking tap water, and the tap water was brown, coming out of the sink, brown. And I said, well, first of all, I want you to start boiling your water. But then when I went to their management to say, has this water been tested? My daughter's drinking this, she's pregnant.
Yeah.
And so I went to
Mhm.
my city, grabbed a sample of it, and paid for it to be tested myself.
Mhm.
And the reason it was that color was because of rust in the pipes. And the test showed high amounts of the rust or whatever element that is. And it had, probably half the amount of lead that is allowed by the county or the state. And I wondered, because they're saying it's safe, but it's freaking brown water.
Mhm.
And later on, her daughter ended up with thyroid cancer at the age of 15. And you wonder why, and you can't prove anything. So like I've been in there firsthand, or my sink water, where I'm in a suburb outside of Los Angeles. It's considered by the state as one of the cleanest waters in Ventura County that we have. Yet I'll turn on the tap water and I'm smelling chlorine every once in a while.
Yep.
And when I drink that water, I get stomach pain. And they're saying that's a safe level. So are those correct? Are those levels correct? Is this political?
Man, that's a loaded question. What a great question. These are the questions we should ask ourselves every single day. These are the, everything you've said, Ray, before I get into the answer, thank you so much for everything that you're doing with these kids. I can't wait to hear what Carla and Papa John have to say too. Every day is an opportunity to make a positive impact. And just like I said before, you don't have to be a scientist. You don't have to be technologically advanced or a mathematician wizard. Just the fact that you care is enough. And that's enough for action, education, awareness, action, all of it. I love it so much. So then the fact that you're asking these questions is the first step towards this understanding. Now, it kind of is a political issue. It's a little bit of everything. Some of it's the water treatment process itself, like the chlorine, for example. Chlorine is one of the steps of the water, the water process for filtering your water, for fixing your water, because chlorine has some cleaning properties, just like the chlorine in your pool. The same kind of advice, like I said with Grace earlier, try to use your carbon filter. Look at your water purveyor report, like whoever you pay for your water bill, go on their website, look up their report. You can also call me. I mean, I'm on LinkedIn, and Calvin includes my LinkedIn, and I can drop it in the chat too at the end, for you to connect with me and ask me questions, because I can help look. Some of it is the fact that whomever is responsible for these issues likely has some sort of part in it. I believe the iron oxide in this water might be from the pipes that are delivering the water to you. That's definitely worth a call to whoever is supposed to be providing the water, not just your landlord, not just like the person immediately above you. I'll go all the way up. Be like, listen, I'm a tenant. I pay to live here. I deserve clean water to drink. My pregnant friend had a daughter with thyroid cancer, which is so terrible. I'm so sorry. These adverse health effects are really stunning and awful. But, the digestible learning is definitely the way to go. The fact that Calvin's involved with the Environmental Commission and his community, even though that comes with obstacles to navigate. I mean, it's such a bag, man. Like, I wish I had all the answers, but the only thing I can offer you is my encouragement and love and spirituality. The fact that this is part of this is who we are. We're just going to do our best, attack from all angles, call your water purveyor and make some noise. This is not just anecdotal evidence. This is a commonality that, just look at Love Canal, look at Mississippi, or Michigan. Sorry, I said Mississippi. I meant Michigan. Thank you, Carla. Yes, please. Papa John, Carla, I need to hear what you guys have to say about this.
Yeah. I think you're spot on when it comes to the space that we're in that includes children, which I call the future.
Yep.
And they are underestimated regarding their response and their contribution, especially in this country. But I think it's critical to get them involved. Greta Thunberg made a great impact. So I could see little Greta Thunbergs just, demanding, especially from our government, to have healthy lifestyles. So you're right. And Calvin, if you can remember in the beginning when we started talking about climate, and I had a great idea to do like a TikTok challenge.
Oh my God,
A
yes.
TikTok
I
challenge.
love
But,
it.
Yes.
Samantha, I need funding. Can you fund that?
We're on the same page here. I'm in volunteering groups, and like funding is literally like, it feels like it's the
I
fundamental
know.
issue here.
It's always been the biggest challenge, but I had it
Yeah.
all, lined out and everything, right, Calvin? I sent him the template as to how
That's
I would
great.
do it, include the kids, but also incentivize it where they get to
Yes.
walk away with prizes, especially for the ones that are going off to college. Any money is worth,
Yep.
I
love it so much.
I just briefly interviewed a young woman, Virgella, who might have been here today, but she has a public relations company, and she's an executive with. And part of what they do, the light bulb went off in my head. Part of what they do is get grants.
Okay.
So
Yeah, here we
I'm gonna
go.
get her
Grant me.
involved in this, and then hook the two of you up to see if
That'd be
she'd
great.
like to take that on. So I just talked to her 2 days ago, and we
Ooh, it's
met.
still fresh.
We met on LinkedIn, and
Awesome.
again, this is what she does, and I wanted to learn more about that, getting grants, because there's tons of money
Yeah.
floating around. You just gotta know how to get it.
Exactly.
So my
love
my
the
fire is
incentivize.
lit. That's from
It's
Jim.
lit.
To you music people, that's a Jim Morrison.
I remember.
That's
I'm
a
old
Jim
enough to
Morrison
remember.
Questions.
reference.
I have 2 questions. One for Calvin. Your filtration system, is that Kangen that you're using, or?
I'm gonna find out about that, and I'll send all of you information on that doesn't seem actually, it's right here. I'll tell you right now. I'm gonna look it up on my phone because they send me a message and I always save it. I think oh yes, it's called PURT. I'm sorry, PUR2, the number 2 O, Pure 2O.
PUR2.
It's a water filtration company.
Okay.
PUR, the number 2
Two.
O.
0. Okay.
Yep.
Oh.
Or actually, it's 0. It's PUR20.
Okay.
What was your second question?
And the second question for you, Sam, is do you think people that live in areas that have mineral springs or in a more safer environment, because that thyroid thing, Ray, really hit in a home? It's just a shame.
That's a really great question. So water containing dissolved minerals, there are levels that humans can ingest, and some of it is considered healthy. Minerals are used in soil, like, for healthy soil. It all depends on what and how much. In toxicology, it's not about what it is, it's about how much. I mean, even just drinking too much water in general, just drinking too much water. I drank too much water. Like, you can actually get hurt from that. I mean, I know that's like a very surface level answer, and I'm sorry if that's not like satisfying enough. There are naturally occurring minerals that we can ingest, and that is okay. But too much is a good question. I mean, just alone, like for magnesium, there's like what, 60% of magnesium stored in your skeleton alone. But also, if you light magnesium, it creates a blinding light, and it's technically not good for you. Like, the science is weird.
And it burns underwater.
I'm sorry, what?
And it burns underwater.
And it burns underwater, like,
Magnesium, yeah.
right? I mean, it's all about the application, how much. I mean, broccoli is good for you to eat, but you don't want to inject it in your veins. I know that sounds silly, but I mean, I try to make it silly because it's fun, but I mean, it's a great that's a great question. I could definitely look more into that, and we can talk on LinkedIn again soon about it. I want to give a good answer, so I'll leave it at that.
So what we should do now, because we've been going for an hour and a half almost, is kind of do a bit of a wrap. We get very ambitious in putting together topics to discuss. We got to one, and we didn't even skirt it. So
a good way to end is like, what can we do? You
Yes.
know? Yeah.
So
Thank you.
Any way of sharing my video with everyone?
Yeah.
Basically what I was going to talk about anyway, but
Yes.
it's in music and in video. My son produced.
it's
Where's
wonderful.
America?
It's
And-
wonderful. Please do share that. As a matter
I
of
want to
fact,
see it.
I don't know how.
you know what?
We could do a link.
No,
We can
I'll
share
take
it.
your MP4 with your permission and send it to this committee.
Send it
Yeah.
to the committee. Yeah, you
Yeah,
have it.
I'll take the MP4 in an email, and I'll send it to you all who've been here. It's called Where is America? And it's wonderful.
Yeah. You
and-
could even stitch it in the video in the beginning and at the end.
Yeah, it's 4 minutes, and you'll love. I loved it. I was so moved, and after I saw it, I contacted Papa John. I said, you know, I'd love to interview you. So later today, I'll send you all the MP4 for Where's America.
I love art. Please send me your music. I want to follow you guys. I very much support every effort that's being done, not just for like, you know, the environment, but for any kind of issue. I mean, even with social issues, with the, you know, with the marginalized groups in our greater majority, you know, these are all the issues that we should focus on at once, because when you take care of people, you take care of the environment too.
Yeah.
So a suggestion to this group, we'll reconvene whenever we reconvene, but we'll continue on water, because it's just, as Alan just said on the chat, it's just too huge. So we will reconvene. I mean, I wanted to talk about plastics and water, not now. I also wanted to talk about the fact that 76 million people out west ain't going to be getting water from snow much anymore, which is how they've sustained themselves for a couple hundred
We
years.
did touch on some of the originating issues with that, and they're all intersectional
Yes.
together. So we can talk about that again too.
Yeah, so we've got, you know, and this is important, just what we're doing, discourse, talking, thinking, bringing people together, networking, so that Carla, you lit my fire, because I see if I can get Virgilla involved. And this, it's really all positive stuff for all of you. For Water Inc. To spread that word around, because you've committed yourself so much to the institution of water. So if anybody has any final comments to make, and I just also want to thank Samantha for taking the lead and being such an integral part of this, your energy.
Oh my
This
gosh.
is great stuff. No, really.
I'm so honored. I'm
really great stuff.
Thank you.
Christine.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
You guys are all
Thank you.
awesome.
So I know
Christine?
Mark is very passionate about this, as you can tell. So
Oh,
he
yeah,
tends to
thank
do
you.
most of the talking for us. But last week, we attended a talk at Davidson College that was presented by two people who have been studying what they call climate perceptions at the University of Bologna.
Yeah, they're sociologists.
Chiara Benelli and Matthew, what's his last
I don't
name?
remember his last
Free something. Anyway, so what they've been doing is they've been amassing data that says what makes people recognize that we have a climate issue, and what motivates people to act, and how does it break down along political lines, and how does it break down along religious lines. It was fascinating, absolutely fascinating.
Love it.
I
Oh,
know
we can do
that-
that as a whole talk on its own.
Some,
yeah.
some of
Yeah.
what, so one thing I think is important for all of us is to get out into our communities and become a part of the conversation in other groups, other than within our own group, and other than being in our studio or our writing space and doing our thing and then sending our message out. But I think it's important to be a part of these other conversations as well.
Being activist.
One of the things that,
Yes.
that Mark brought up at that time was about how, like we all experienced this with COVID, people will wear a mask to protect themselves, but will they wear a mask to protect someone else? And the answer is no. And we see it with the climate as well.
Yeah.
So if it's if the flooding is in my
Empathy.
backyard, then yes, I will do something about it, just as people. And if the flooding is in Pakistan, I'm a lot less worried about that because that doesn't affect me.
Yeah.
So we
Yep.
need to make sure that we're all part of a global community as well. And I guess, and also targeting the children is great because we need to make sure that the doomsday message isn't so strong that they're completely hopeless and they think there's nothing they can do. That's part of it. And then the other part of it is these folks from the University of Bologna were saying that it's not just the young people, it's the older people. 1/3 of the population in Italy is over the age of 72.
And they don't care.
And they don't care
Mhm.
Wow.
because
Empathy and bringing it home and making it about
Yes.
all of us. Yes,
Yes.
empathy is essential.
so not only do we need to motivate the children and give them hope, we need to motivate the older
Everybody.
generations to care about the younger generations.
Yeah, it's all
And
of
the
it. It's about
world
all
that
of
we are
us.
leaving them.
It affects us right now. I mean, if there's that's the reason is because it's affecting everybody. And, empathy and caring for each other, empowerment, education, awareness, action,
Yes.
all of it. Thank you, Christine. That was
Yeah.
really insightful.
We ran into another interesting thing. I mean, that's ultimately why we chose the story.
I can never have the last word.
No.
Aww.
That's the reason we chose story format, for the show, and making it as real as possible. But when I've spent a lot of time talking to young people about the story because I did not want us to be perceived as profiting from a catastrophe. And I had some really interesting and some of them hostile conversations. One woman that I spoke to said, "Oh, we're mad. We're really, really angry. And some of us homicidally so."
Oh.
And that really surprised me. But in the next breath, she said, but we need you because we don't know what to do. And that's a really, really important thing to take away from this. They don't know about the civil rights marches. We lived through it. They don't know about Vietnam. We lived through it. All of these things that happen.
Yeah, but they have seen Greta Thunberg and what she's
Yes.
done, so that's good.
Yes.
Yes, but by the but by the same token, I mean, they really we're kind of emphatic about it. We don't know what to do.
It starts with care. It
Yeah.
really does. Caring
Yes.
about each other. And if you do care about each other, you want to unifiedly make it work.
Yep.
If just for the future, your children, your grandchildren.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but most people won't act
Empathy.
until it's in their best interest to act.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
why we
and
got to
that's-
make it about all of us.
Yes.
Yes,
We need to find that whatever it is that speaks to them as far as their best interest.
yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think
We've even
sometimes-
talked about incentivizing. I think Carla and Ray
Yeah.
touched on that.
Yes.
And I think some people don't think that they have the power. So they don't-
Empowerment.
it's the seed is there, but what do I do with it? I don't
Nurture
have
it.
the power, you know?
Food, water,
It's
nurture.
crazy.
Yeah. Beautiful.
A great presentation, Sam. Awesome.
yes,
Thank you.
yes.
Awesome.
Ray, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, and I guess somebody just, your name's not up there, but I wanted to touch that many people see these panels, and this is from my perspective, many people see these panels and they go, oh, they're just talking, but there's no action. But the
This is
truth in the
action.
matter, the truth in the matter is that most people don't see is that it's kind of like the 100 monkey effect. If you know about that, and if you don't, look it up, that thought is energy. And just the fact that you guys are here talking about it is sending positive energy on the subject into the universe. And this is truth. This really happens. So, so don't feel like just because there's no action going on right now, well, action is going on presently from you guys into the universe, and it's picked up, like the 100th monkey effect, which is
Calvin and I are definitely going to talk about this in our next talk together, where he's asking me some questions about, my work, but also my volunteering work.
Correct.
And that's part of like my little shameless plug. I think I was talking to Carla about it earlier with funding is, volunteering and getting together. Calvin touched on it with, getting into your community. I think Christine touched on it too. Everybody, all of us, do your part. Get with your people, make a group. It's fun with more people. It's fun when you bring friends. It's genuinely a great time. And thank you all for your knowledge and passion for these issues. And when we work together, we can make some magic happen.
It's interesting. The guys in the band, I'm by far the oldest one in the band. Like I'm twice the age of the next guy behind me. But we got 18. And then we've got two guys who were in their early 30s. They have come to call this, what we're doing is the mission.
Yep.
Which is really interesting. And this spreads into the actors because we have a number of actors that have been with us through several iterations now. And they're the same way, and they're young and they want something done. And they've attached to us in order to do this. And then it's incumbent on us to actually make it pay off.
Love it.
This was great. Samantha, again, thank you for taking the lead, and I got some ideas to work on.
Thank you, Calvin.
Housekeeping things. I'll put this up, this whole thing. We know that lots of people ain't gonna watch this for an hour and a half, but what I'm gonna experiment with is to take some clips. I've learned as an old timer actually how to make clips, and I'm going to take some clips. Alan had suggested that a minute or 2 minute, 3 minute, and I'll send those clips to you all. I'll send you the link to this and the promo piece for this, so we'll promote this. It's really the topic is Samantha and PFAs and water and the general discourse, and I've said it. So I'll send you all that information when this whole thing goes up there. Promote it. People, they're gonna watch what they want to watch, a couple of minutes, and that's the best attention span that we're gonna get. So I'll make clips, and when I make a clip, an MP4 clip, I'll send it to you all, and this is all about. And you said it, the 100 monkey thing, and I've said it. When there's a billion groups like ours, then we're there, and the climate thing will have been conquered. So we've got to get a billion groups of ours discussing. So that means there's a billion plus people actively talking and thinking and sharing. And another purpose of this group is networking. You all met each other. And call it the networking. If I can get Virgilla to kind of help and volunteer, and hey, that's all good stuff. So we can think about the next topic. It's going to be water, because I think we've got a lot of things to kind of talk about. Anybody last final comments, and we're gonna go enjoy Saturday.
I got a lot of things to do. I have a CD release party.
All right, you got it. That's right, you do.
Yeah.
Stay safe, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody. I will be in touch. You did make my day. This was great stuff. I will be in touch.
Me too. You made my day.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, everybody. We're signing off.
Bye.
Be well.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Be well.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye.